So I felt the need to correct the record once again on the issue of Mack begs, as this picture is being circulated in the argument about trans athletes in sports. This is Mack Beggs in the dominant position here. Mack Beggs was born Mackenzie Beggs, a biological female. They transitioned to male while in high school, and the state of Texas does not allow biological females to wrestle biological males. This rule only exists in Texas. The reason it is important to point out that this rule only exists in Texas will be clear in a moment. However, first we need to get to the bottom of exactly when Mack Beggs began to transition from Mackenzie Beggs. This article, published in the Texas Tribune, was published on February 26, 2017. The authors of this article interviewed Mack and their family, and they stated that they began taking testosterone in the year 2015. The primary website used for recording a wrestler's career wins and losses and what tournaments they attend is called Track Wrestling. This is the primary account for Mack Beggs' career. It has the majority of their participation in the sport of wrestling. The issue that has to be understood once again is that the rule that prevents girls from entering boys' tournaments only exists in the state of Texas and only in their scholastic school competitions. So, for example, on this female wrestler's account, you can see that they entered both boys and girls tournaments, and this is in the state of Michigan. In the rest of the country, girls have entered boys' brackets, usually without any problems, and that includes at major national tournaments such as Fargo. As we established earlier, Mack Beggs began taking testosterone supplementation in 2015. They even fought in court in Texas to continue to be allowed to take testosterone while competing in the Texas Girls State Division. The same Texas Tribune article that I used earlier also states that Mack Beggs apparently did request to wrestle boys in the state of Texas in the scholastic school-based divisions. But the part of the story that is often not brought up is the fact that Mack Beggs still entered girls' division tournaments outside of the state of Texas, where they would not be prevented from entering the boys' division. Most of the major national tournaments have divisions for both the boys and the girls. And as you can see here, the date was 11/06/2016. This would be a year after Mack Beggs had begun to transition and was actively taking testosterone. But a year after transitioning, they entered this girls' tournament outside the state of Texas under their dead name, Mackenzie Beggs. If you look here, you will see that some of these names are highlighted in blue. That's because these are hyperlinks that will take you directly to this participant's track wrestling profile. If I click on this one for Maya Kretzker, you see her track wrestling profile. However, if I do the same to Mackenzie Beggs, you get nothing. And that's because this account was created so that Mack Beggs could enter this national tournament in the girls' division under their dead name, Mackenzie Beggs, an account that doesn't any longer exist. Here they are again, highlighted in red. Mackenzie Beggs from Trinity High School Wrestling in Texas. Well, maybe it's not Mack Beggs? Well, let's take a look, because every one of these tournaments has a video. Chloe Clemens of Eastern Iowa Wrestling Club versus Mackenzie Beggs of Trinity High School Wrestling. All right, well, let's have a look.
Mackenzie, you'll be green. You'll be red. Second call.
You heard them refer to Mackenzie? There's Mack Beggs. Mackenzie Beggs entered this tournament a year after transitioning while on testosterone. This tournament was conducted in the state of Iowa, where they had no prohibitions whatsoever against Mack entering the boys' division. And they used their dead name. This is something that's supposed to be terrible to the trans community. But they willingly used their dead name to enter a girls' tournament while on testosterone. So now going back to Mack Beggs' primary profile, back in 2015, you can see that they competed in the girls' division and frequently did not even place. 2015, as we had already proved, was the year that they began taking testosterone. There was a marked improvement almost immediately. And in fact, during the 2 years that they competed in high school after transition, they went undefeated for 2 full years in the girls' division. If you go back to 2016 on Mack Beggs' primary account, as I mentioned earlier, you will dubiously notice that the girls' preseason nationals is not listed, and I already explained why. They used a different account. But the other thing you'll notice is that Mack did travel out of state to other girls' division competitions that they did not have to do so. So, for example, we have the girls' folk style duels in 2016. And as you can see, these were, when you click information, conducted in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has no restrictions on girls entering boys' division tournaments. In addition, as we can see here, Junior Women's Freestyle Nationals, also in this case, out of the state of Texas and in Fargo, North Dakota. In 2017, USA Wrestling finally updated their policy regarding trans athletes and their participation. USA Wrestling is the major organization that conducts things like the Olympic trials and also conducts all of the national tournaments that I've already shown you. That was when they finally told Mack Beggs that they would no longer be allowed to enter girls' division tournaments, and that from then on out they would have to wrestle in the boys' division. It's very important to be clear on this. This ruling was not made to give Mack Beggs permission to participate in the boys' division at USA National Wrestling tournaments. They were already allowed to do this if they wanted to. It was only in the state of Texas that they were not permitted to wrestle boys. This ruling instead was made to prevent Mack Beggs from continuing to enter girls' division tournaments as somebody who is transitioning to male and therefore on testosterone. I was actually present at Girls Folk Style Nationals that year, coaching my daughter, the year that she won the national title. And they were present and were told they could not enter because of this ruling. No doubt some of you have already watched my video wherein I go over the 30 for 30 episode where Mack Beggs has been interviewed. Mack Beggs actually commented on this video and admitted that this was what was going on. Here you see Mack commenting on my video. It's a lot more complicated than that. Via USA Wrestling rules based on the state's extracurriculum activity, at the time, girls in USA Wrestling could only do Greco-Roman. This is totally untrue, as I've already demonstrated, but that's besides the point. Mack goes on to make excuses about participating in girls' tournaments when they didn't have to by saying they were trying to get mat time. For those of you who are not familiar with wrestling, the idea is the more matches you participate in, the better a wrestler you will be. They go on to say, I wanted to be great, not good. I didn't want to be average. I did what I could with what I was told I could do. Reach out next time. Peace. And I did tell them, well, hello, Mack. I'm sorry I only just saw this. I would love to talk to you further. How can I reach you? I never heard anything back. And just in case there's any doubt that this was in fact Mack Beggs commenting on my video, let's click. Mack Karam Beggs, at Mack the Punk. As you can see, videos here of Mack Beggs talking about their life as a trans person. When I decided to further investigate to find out how well Mack Beggs did when they finally went to college, where they will wrestle men, I saw 3 seasons, and I noticed in another article that they stated that Mack underwent top surgery, and therefore they were out. So that's why there's no matches on this one, and there's also no matches on this one. But when they finally got on the mat as a college wrestler in 2021, they had 2 matches, both of which that they lost. It's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it is very difficult for women to wrestle men. But one of the things that this also showcases beyond anything else, and the same thing is true if you go back over the history of when Mack Beggs would wrestle boys, they didn't usually do very well. And the reason why is that even testosterone supplementation is not going to be sufficient to override the advantage that biological males have over biological females in sports. Even taking testosterone is not enough. But it still provides a huge advantage over other females if you are a female on testosterone. As I mentioned in other videos I've done on this topic, that's why the Soviet Union and the Germans, like when there was a communist party like that ruled half of Germany, they all gave their women testosterone because it wouldn't show up on the drug tests, but it definitely gave them huge advantages in sports in the Olympics. Now, I've already used this clip in the 30 for 30 episode, when it came to this topic, and I'll list this original video if you want to watch the whole thing because I go over some other details about this. But I do feel that it's a great way to end this video by once again showing the final, like, reckoning, so to speak, at least when it came to Mack's high school career.
Y'all think he's a two-time state champ? You haven't messed with me. Right, Matt?
Yeah.
That's graduation. I thought for sure maybe they'd say, and also in our midst, we have a two-time state champion wrestling, Mack Beggs.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want it.
I just thought maybe they'd acknowledge
You
it.
want to know why?
Why?
Because I really don't feel like I deserve it.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
I'm being serious. Like, yeah, I feel like I won a state title. Like, yeah, that's true. That's inevitable. But
You won two of them
two of
in a row.
Obviously,
Undefeated.
But obviously, listen. But if you were to go against a girl in a girls tournament, how would you feel? Would you feel like you deserved it?
But you were
No, listen. Would you feel like you deserved it?
So that's the major statement. For one thing, you can notice, obviously, the dad was way more into that than Mack was. And that's an unfortunate problem that frequently comes up in wrestling. But the other major issue is Mack recognizes that they don't deserve their girls' state titles. They, still haven't completely owned up to all of this. And the biggest reason that I bring all of this up is that, once again, as with many other things that go on with the left, particularly when it comes to issues of trans people, whether it was them absolutely insisting at the Wii Spa that no pre-op trans person would ever want access to spaces set aside for nude women and young girls, well, that happened. Then they claimed that that was a hoax, and then that proved to actually be true. And not only was the pre-op trans person demanding that space, they were a sex offender. Then again, recently, as I just did a video about, in the state of Washington, a judge finally ruled that a similar spa in Olympus would have to admit pre-op trans women, i.e. biological males. Again, they claimed that nobody would ever want to do this. And in a similar vein, frequently we are told that no trans person would ever want to become trans to gain any kind of advantage in sports. But as I have demonstrated now, with the evidence that I have been told I didn't give before, Mack Beggs knowingly entered girls' tournaments that they did not have to enter outside the state of Texas, Texas being the only state where there were any rules preventing them from competing with boys. They did this even assuming their dead name after their transition to do so, created another account to do so, then deleted the account to cover up for it. That's the truth. I don't hate trans people, but I do coach girls who participate in sports. They work very hard, and they deserve their own divisions. The fight for girls to get equal treatment in sports is not even over. We're only just now getting to the point that girls have their own divisions. And that is why this issue is still important. People who are suggesting that these girls should just step aside and allow someone else to take that position from them are usually, that I've seen so far anyway, usually people who don't participate in sports, don't care about sports, have never had to work on trying to be better at a sport, have never had to look into sports being a way to pay for their college education. And it's extremely clear that the trans activists will engage in violence and threats on this issue. This issue is the only thing in my entire life of doing this kind of work since 2008 that I have ever been doxxed or had my life and family's lives threatened. That is how much they want to cover up the truth on this issue. I'll tell them the same thing I told them when they text messaged me to threaten me. Make sure you're armed, because I am. But that's not really how I want this to go. We need to stop lying about this. I agree, Mack Beggs should have been allowed to wrestle boys. And if they had, we wouldn't even know who they are. You know why? Because in general, even with testosterone, trans men do not do well with biological men in sports, which is also why you almost never hear any complaints about trans men competing against biological men. Despite all of the accusations that supposedly all of this is about people hating trans people or their religious beliefs or whatever, you virtually never hear any complaints about trans men competing against biological men. And the reason why is they have no advantage. Even with testosterone supplements, they do very badly. That is why we created women's divisions in the first place. Not because of how someone identifies or who they want to hang out with, but because of biological realities. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and ring the bell. You can check me out at hy.page/vradio, where you can find my channels on Rumble, BitChute, etc. You can join us on Discord, where we have a lot of lively debates. The only major rule is don't engage in personal attack. I have actually been jumped in my Discord on this topic, and I'll link that video in the cards. And I will probably stay on top of this if it goes anywhere else, but please share this video anywhere people are lying about Mack Beggs. And that includes people who are misinterpreting what took place, because there are people that think that this was a male transitioning to female. It was actually a female transitioning to male. That's misinformation that many conservatives are giving out that I don't even think they really know the full story about. But you also need to share this anytime people claim that Mack Beggs was only wrestling girls because they were forced to, as that is very clearly not the case. Thanks for tuning in.